Elon Musk yesterday drops this life course changing for everyone presentation. Seriously, where he really demonstrates how his knowledge over AI and inside of his companies.
I think there could be tens of billions of Optimus robots out there. We're going to launch the fastest production ramp of any large complex manufactured product ever. It's starting with building a 1 million unit production line in Fremont. That's line one. Then a 10 million unit per year production line here on the... I don't know where we're going to put the 100 million unit production line. Maybe on Mars, I don't know. But I think it's going to literally get to 100 million a year, maybe even 1 billion a year. You know, people often talk about eliminating poverty, giving everyone amazing medical care. Well, there's actually only one way to do that, and that's with the Optimus robot. With humanoid robots, you can actually give everyone amazing medical care. Optimus will ultimately be better than the best human surgeon.
How he will be able to make quote unquote sustainable abundance a reality. And this is something also that I have seen in my intense endeavor into nature over the last 15 years. Nature, natural sciences, and sustainable installations, which are very abundant as well. Now is the time. Liquidate some of what you have in the city. Start doing something in nature, tropical high growth rate nature here in Latin America, where the dollar goes much farther and there's a diverse potential to make diverse investment and have diverse produce in the true green zones, the super growth areas, through people who actually know what they're doing. Technologically, he mentions having robots be with you. You would have your Optimus robot, would give you true health care. It might not let you, in his words, commit a crime, but otherwise it's an excellent healthcare giving assistant robot that can provide a lot and knowledge, maybe even harvest medicinal plants and concoct your nutritional diversity diet from right out in the nature. You don't need to really cultivate too much of anything, right? We can really pay the intense cultivators well, start making smart decisions about where we get our nutrition from, start to disempower this ecological hazard that is known as modern agriculture, and start to support small people who are doing much more loving, caring, genuine, authentic jobs, learning from the land and going with the flow. Excellent productivity should be done at main scale. The fact that it's not, knowing everything that we actually really do know, is insane. It's insane to me. Also, with the Sean Ryan show evaluations of the power grid, we can make power from compost, solar, water, in very sustainable, small ways that do not affect the ecology whatsoever. Charge lots of batteries, supply lots of power to the grid, making it more robust and sustainable. And in my travels to Brazil, smart lodging that's very nice, that's very sturdy and durable and well put together at very great rates. That's all smart functioning, right? And locks and system and everything. You should be able to get great stays at these places as you travel, and they should be very much zones that are independent, that have independent robotics, whether it be drone or land-based, independent AI, weather gauging, reactive, smart systems to create the highest growth rates through sprinklers and compost teas and all kinds of advanced methods, to where an abundance of produce can be available at a restaurant on site for people moving things to and fro. I think freight travel on highways are just too good, even though Elon Musk is always also announcing flying cars on Joe Rogan. There's going to be some real spirit tipping changes, and you want, as I always talk about, a comportamentalization of power and sustainability. You want compartmentalization, and for to remain floatable. Okay, these areas should be given freedom to establish not just a new culture of biology with every spectrum of animal and organ becoming available there, right? So that we can get full spectrum, nose to tail, diversity, diets, and everybody for everybody, right? So these would be, if a government or a private investor did this, it should be a community service as well as a sustainable community service, right? That can branch out and do more and expand year after year, little by little, according to the sustainability guidelines that I put in the pamphlet below. On Amazon, you can get this quick 45-page pamphlet that's starting to really give you the idea of these sustainable areas. Again, they should be free to make their own social cultures, free to make their own new innovations of culture. You know what I mean? People can be quick download, read. This is how it is here. This is what's cool. This is what's not cool. Right? We have our own system. Do not bring your robotics from your previous system. Leave that in the car or whatever. You know what I mean? And take the power off.
With a level of precision that is beyond human. So I think that's a pretty wild concept to say, okay, if people always talked about eliminating poverty, but actually Optimus will actually eliminate poverty. Optimus will actually give people incredible medical care. So you start getting some pretty wild sci-fi scenarios where some of these things I say will obviously be taken out of context and used in snippets and, sent around, but whatever. I'm still going to say them. I think we might be able to give people a more humane form of containment of future crime, which is if you now get a free Optimus and it's just going to follow you around and stop you from doing crime. But other than that, you get to do anything. It's just going to stop you from committing crime. That's really it. You don't have to put people in like prisons and stuff, I think. It's pretty wild to think of all the possibilities, but I think it's clearly the future. My book recommendation for the best, mostly utopian sci-fi future are the Ian Banks books, the culture books. So if you're curious, like, what do I think the future is probably like? I think it's probably a bit like that. Or, Asimov to some degree, but I think it's, and Heinlein, but Ian Banks, if you're like saying, what does Elon think the future probably will be like for AI and robots, it's kind of Banksian. Now, and things do get kind of wild from an economic standpoint, because at a certain point with AI and robotics, you can actually increase the global economy by a factor of 10 or maybe 100. There's not like an obvious limit. So, like, Optimus is kind of like an infinite money glitch. Maybe there won't even be money in the future, or money, but it might be measured in terms of wattage, like how much power can you bring to bear from an electrical standpoint.
Sustainable community service, right? That can branch out and do more and expand year after year, little by little, according to the sustainability guidelines that I put in the pamphlet below. On Amazon, you can get this quick 45-page pamphlet that's starting to really give you the idea of these sustainable areas. Again, they should be free to make their own social cultures, free to make their own new innovations of culture. You know what I mean? People can be quick download, read. This is how it is here. This is what's cool. This is what's not cool. Right? We have our own system. Do not bring your robotics from your previous system. Leave that in the car or whatever. You know what I mean? And take the power off. And we're going to have our own independent robotics culture, AI culture, so that we're making diverse experiments out of this whole new endeavor. And we're making sure to do lots of nature-based stuff so that we use this incredible technology to promote life, not just destroy it. All right? Cool. So I just wanted to chime in. I make a little bit of a response video here with this new amazing information by Elon Musk.
So I guess what I'm saying is hang on to your Tesla stock. Yeah.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
The projection that you're telling me Elon has made about high income for everybody is a little bit like another version of that, right? It's like, okay, well, sex became relatively easy to access as a result of reliable birth control plus abortion. And then now wealth, the ability, purchasing power, is going to become trivial as a result of AI. I don't know if that's likely, but let's say that Elon is right about that. Well, okay, then what exactly is supposed to structure your orientation to the universe? What is supposed to give you purpose? If it's not producing kids and protecting them from the horrors of the world and making them strong so that they can go out into it and accomplish important things of their own, and it's not creating wealth so that you will be rewarded and that your spouse will smile on you, whatever it is, then what is human purpose? I think this is a terrifying prospect, that everything might be taken care of for us and leave human beings listless.
Sure. That's certainly a possible outcome. But why is it that we have to make money a made-up thing that we created? Why is it that is what gives us purpose?
Well,
like, why is that our only motivation? And in absence of chasing food, housing, necessities, electricity, all that, if you don't ever have to worry about any of that stuff ever again, why is life dependent upon the pursuit of money? Is it just because we've grown accustomed to it and it's our way, and so we think that our way is the absolute only way? That doesn't make any sense. To me, it's like we can adapt to not living in fucking caves anymore. All right, we can adapt to cell phones. We can adapt to the idea that you don't have to spend your whole fucking life hoping to get a job you hate and working your ass off all the time because that's the only way to make it in this world. Well, that's a world that people made. It's a stupid design. It doesn't make any sense at all. And if somebody actually does come along and say, look, is this not socialism? It's not saying you can't earn money, but what if you had enough money that you didn't have to think about money? Like, if you think about that $37 trillion of this fucking country's in debt for, and how much wealth could potentially be generated by it, we're talking about so much money floating around. If you just gave everybody in the country a real high income, livable life, so there's no more poverty anymore, how much crime would that solve? Like, instantaneously. How much crime would be solved, or future crime solved, if everybody lived at a high income level? It sounds completely insane, but imagine if everybody in the country makes at least $500,000 a year. You know how different the world is? Do you know how less violence there is, less suicides, less drug addictions?
I'm not as convinced of this as you
Really?
are. No, I think things might get worse.
If no one was ever poor?
Well, I don't know what no one is ever poor means, because we obviously, even, the poorest person who isn't homeless currently, they have, indoor plumbing. They have a supercomputer in their pocket, access to, the world's information. They are, by many measures, just simply in absolute terms, vastly richer than anybody from 300 years ago.
That's true, but it still sucks because
Well,
it's not 300 years ago. It's 2025 and you have zero money and you're eating ramen to just try to stay alive. It still sucks.
It sucks, but the problem is what's really structuring the suckitude is the fact that you're losing in competition, that human beings are programmed by evolution to monitor the well-being of others. And so you can be wealthy and feel poor if those that you compare yourself to are vastly wealthier.
Right.
So and there's a reason for that, which I think this is a reasonably well reproduced result. We know that human beings pay attention to their relative well-being, and that it structures how they feel about their absolute circumstances.
Right, but couldn't that be hijacked by hobbies? If instead of your need to define yourself completely wrapped up in money, which is again a made-up thing.
Yeah.
We're talking about the only species on the planet that we're aware of that wants to accumulate so much shit that it defines itself by it, and it's constantly chasing new shit, right? Like, why does that have to be the only way we do it?
No, I don't think it does have to be the only
Well,
way.
I think this is where Uncle AI is going to step in and fix it for us, Brett.
Well, I
This
certainly...
is the rose-colored glasses approach.
Yes.
Is that we realize our programming is entirely dependent upon this ridiculous idea that the pursuit of money is of importance above all. Because in our current situation, it is. In our current situation, if you have enough money to feed your kids, you can sleep better. That's just how it is. If you don't worry about your bills, you feel better. You have less pressure. That's just how it is. If you have enough money to go on vacation,